Hey there, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to SketchCraft Live. I'm Rob Duenas, and I am sitting very close to the monitor. There we go. Let's just adjust that a little bit. Boom, shakalaka. All right, so here to talk with me today about some art stuff is Brandon Lead Heavy James. Brandon, say hello.
Hey, hi.
Hey, how are you? So we have some questions from feedback from the community, from the SketchCrafties. What are we calling them?
Our
fellow crafties.
Our fellow crafters.
Crafters or crafties? I like crafties.
I like crafters. Crafty sounds like crafty. I don't
Really?
know.
Crafty?
It's your podcast. I'm just along for the ride.
Crafters. Fellow crafters. I like crafties. Crappy's pretty good.
How about this, people? If you like crafters or you like crafties, let us know. Comment below or, Facebook.
And if you like potatoes, let us know too. Huh? It's an option.
Done. Moving along.
All right, I want to move this further. So we have a question. This comes from Digital Gamer right on the YouTubes. This is from the art silhouette video we did right there, drawing with silhouettes. And Digital Gamer asks, for some reason, can't use the silhouette technique when there are overlapping elements. I can't tell which one ends and the other begins. So my firstly, I was only going to respond to this in the YouTube. So I basically told him that the whole point to him or her or whatever, the whole point is to draw things in the front first. That's eliminating foreshortening. So what am I talking about? So he's talking about drawing in silhouettes. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out the Art Tips video, drawing in silhouettes. The point of drawing in silhouettes isn't basically to do this flat stuff. You can. That's not the benefit of drawing in silhouettes for me. That's not why I came up. Well, I didn't come up with this. It's been done before, but parallel thinking. This is what I responded to when I was a kid. So the point and the reason why I came up to this, and I'll show you. This is exactly what happened when I was a kid. I saw this thing where, Jim Lee would draw Wolverine's, claws coming at you and shit, right? He used to do this thing. Remember this one, Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
Where it'd be this hand. He used to do this like every fucking, and it was like clutched fist back here, right? Big leg coming, right?
My screen hasn't caught up to your
see.
Desktop.
Let me know when you got it. You'll see it.
If you did switch to desktop, right?
Oh, did I switch to desktop? No, I didn't.
Okay.
Gotta tell me these things, Brandon.
I'm on a 10-second or so delay,
right.
So that's why.
So let's just start over again. So the point of doing silhouettes is not what you see here, this flat stuff. Make sure I got
there we go.
That's what happens when I read, folks. When I read the feedback, my mind is on answering problem mode. So I need Brandon. You're going to be reading feedback from now on. So I'm only looking at my monitor. Okay. So that isn't the point. The point is to do foreshortening. Now, if you remember, Jim Lee used to draw stuff kind of like this. You ever see that, Brandon?
Mm-hmm.
With this big hand coming at you, a big leg, And as a kid, I used to look at that and go, man, how do you come up with that? And the How to Draw Marvel Way and various books, like the only book at the time, would say you start with like an action line, right? And then you draw the shoulders. And then there's a point for the shoulder bone, whatever, fucking, and then you'll have the hand will come out, and then the hand will kind of be here, and then you'll kind of go like this, right? And then you'll connect. Right. I was sitting here forever, and then they tell you to do this, right? Check it out, and then kind of come in here with the stick figure, right? I'm trying not to be a dick and do this fucked up on purpose to benefit myself, but I'm just giving you like the shorthand. And then you take that, and then there'd be another step, right? This is what always threw me off. There'd be that, and then in the art book, it would go like, now the next step, we'll have like all these muscles kind of drawn in and extra, you come here and you do this. There's these big muscles. And I used to think, because this is how dumb I was as a kid, I used to think I had to draw it this way and then draw another one like this. I didn't understand, like, this was building on top of that drawing.
Right.
I didn't have anyone ask. As my art teacher, she didn't even want to look at those books. She said comics were for morons and made me paint vases. So I tried figuring this stuff out. I tried figuring out, like, do you take fingers and go like this, and then how do you... I could never get my head around it. Until one day, I sat with the marker, right? One of those little chisel tip Sharpies that smell. And I was like, And then I put a piece of paper over it. And when you put a piece of paper over another piece of paper, it kind of looks like that. And then I would sit with the pencil and, like, crudely, I'm doing this much better now than I did when I was, like,
Right.
12 or 13. I'd come here and build the shapes in. And people would see me tracing and go, "Oh, you're tracing that?" I'm like, "No, I drew this thing." "Oh, you're a tracer." I'm like, "Oh, fuck." So I gave this up all the way through high school. All the way through high school, I stopped doing this. And I went and did it this way with the stick figures. And I could never fucking, figure out how to do it. And I would always look back, like, to The Dark Knight Returns and see Superman as, this silhouette in The Dark Knight Returns. He'd be a silhouette, like flying, like this shit. And I'd be like, man, I could see Superman in there, even though there'd be nothing there,
Right.
And I'm like, fuck, that just makes more sense. But I was called a tracer and I couldn't deal with it, so I gave it up. Until I got in the Army and I was doing my own model sheets and teaching myself how to draw and learn construction. And I got to the point with model sheets where I had to, you draw the front view of a person. I'm going to quickly just mock this up.
Right.
I go into greater detail in another art tips video, folks. Go draw silhouettes, XMen. I figured out that, okay, there's a silhouette. So I figured out, okay, I drew this thing, and then I wanted to draw the backside. So I took a piece of tracing paper, drew that, and then I needed a 3/4 angle. And I was spending all my time creating these ruler lines to line everything up. Like this, drawing all these lines on my ruler for like an hour, just all these lines, right? And then trying to, like, line them all up and figure out how to get, like, if you kind of turn this down, then you're like, oh, what the fuck was that? That's where the head goes, and this is where the shoulder goes, and I think this is, fuck, what was it? Was that the groin? That didn't make any sense to me. I was like, this is killing me. And then I'd go like this, and my guys would look like really bad fucking popsicle stick dudes. Like they're like gonna take a dump in the woods or some shit. Like I look like the Wicker Man. Like all my model sheets, they had no life to them. I was like, I just sat there as a 19-year-old soldier in the Army. I should have been fearing getting blown up or something. This is before we were at war, but you can fuck yourself up in the Army. I was worried about this. Like I got like 3 years because I wasn't staying in. I'm like, I got 3 years to figure this shit out, And what I arrived at was the silhouette thing. And in the XMen silhouettes, I get into this example even more. That's where I started blocking in, like I did the Bruce Timm thing. Because I was like, I could draw like Bruce Timm, which, whatever.
Right.
But I started creating silhouettes. And then I would take the exact same silhouette, the exact same one, right? And I would, in my mind, I want to show you this really quick, folks. In my mind, I could see this being his chest popping out, right? I can see that in my mind when I look at it, just like a Batman Bruce Timm figure, okay? So what I did is when I moved it here, I just pretended that this exact same line that went up to the head curved around and the line went just like this, but it went in. So instead of popping out, it went in, and that was the backside. And now watch this little fucking magic trick I'm about to do here. So just take this hand and shrink it. Take that foot, shrink it, and bring that down. And now you have the backside silhouette.
Fucking magic trick.
Don't you think?
Devil's work.
I sat in my room in 1999 going, shit, looking around like,
I would have never thought of that. What the fuck?
that's pretty, now that's pretty clever, right? Like,
Yeah.
that you're probably,
This guy Mike says witchcraft. I agree.
yeah.
What the
All
fuck?
you have to do is just train your mind. Like, you see the Matrix, then I saw the Matrix like 3 months later, and I was like, fuck, that's what I'm talking about. You gotta see into the code a little bit.
Yeah.
So, how does that help with learning silhouettes? So he's having trouble placing things in front of things. So the way I would work this is start simple, folks. First off, if I give advice, and I show you how to do something cool, and then you go try it, it don't work out, that doesn't mean you fucking suck. It means it takes a while to get to the point where you're good enough to show people how to do things. At least I believe. You know, with YouTube, anyone can fucking do whatever they want. But I'm assuming that this could take a while, folks. So be patient. Just keep at it. So let's say we're going to draw a circle. And then right behind that, I'm going to block in, oh wow, those white lines are there. I'm going to block in a flooby flap, right? I'm just going to make up a fucking shape, right? Flooby flap, right? Now, you know, the trick with foreshortening means things that are drawn in front of one another, is to just sit down and draw the thing that's in front first. And I like to use these little grid lines so it looks like it's three-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
So I get a feeling of three-dimensionality. And then, you know, you can set up the perspective guides and do all this stuff if you need to, right? I kind of do it all in my head now. Kind of helps sometimes to have a floor plane, though. You kind of know where that goes. So draw what's in front. Like, bet you didn't think that could be in front right there, and that this could angle back this way. And there's center. And this comes over here. And that comes back, and it's a flooby flap, right? Oh, shit. And then we can come down this way, and that goes up that way, just like a 3D model. Just like a 3D model. Crazy part is I can't model for shit in 3D. That's true, right, Brandon?
That's true.
It's very weird, but I can't. I'm not good at it at all. But I have done modeling in 3D, so I help train my mind. And so, when you're coming down to things like a character, let's say they're like this, and they got, you know, they have a body, and like they got a big gun, I'll just blob in a giant, let's say, nice X-Force style fucking gun, right? Some weird shit coming out the bottom, you know, nice shoulder pad up here, right? Hey, remember this shit? Stuff coming off the side, right? So the way to start doing it is just sit there and say, okay, what shapes? I know guns have turrets, right? So, or turrets, but you know what I mean. Like you draw that shit first, that comes in, and then you work out the shapes. So the foreshortening is kind of being done for you, right? You just and you're not sitting there trying to like work out a bunch of. You're not working back front. You're working front to the back. And if you're having a hard time seeing that, I go back to drawing primitive spheres and flooby flaps. You know, like, it takes a little while, man. Like, you're not going to, you go, I tried that silhouette thing, it didn't work. Well, you know, I'm not saying that you said that, Digital Gamer. I'm just saying that that could be the thing going on in your head, you know. But I find that if you train your mind, the payoff is way better. Look, I mean, how many lines did it take to get that, right? Not many.
No.
Versus how many times you've seen like artists when they post sketches on Instagram, they're like, it looks something like, let me turn this opacity down a little bit so we can get like a pencil effect. It turns out to be like these sketches and now think about all this sketching that's going on like this, you know, before you start, and what kind of wear and tear that can do on your hand. Because something I want you all to know too is in 2008, I got monstrous case of carpal tunnel. I couldn't draw at all because I was always pressing too hard, and you know. And then when I would go to do cleanup lines, like I say we lightboard this, you know, I would press really fucking hard with my 2H pencil trying to get these perfectly clean lines and all these little tiny, you know, all my details, right? Trying to perfectly pencil in every little detail. And how I managed to eliminate that was drawing in silhouettes, One, because I'm not doing a lot of crazy fucking like random sketching. Two, drawing with red pencil, which is softer, and my final lines with micron pens because I don't there's no pressure with the pen. You're
Right.
just do. And then drawing and inking it digitally when I want it to be perfectly clean because those micron pens are not clean. So it took years to work that out. But do you have any comments or questions about the whole silhouette thing, Brandon? Like,
When you say years, I mean you honestly mean it. Like people think this shit's like people try this for a week, maybe a month, and then they're done. They give up. I mean, there's been times when, not recently, but years before, where you'd give me advice and I would try it for like a week or two, and then you'd be like, "Hey, are you doing that thing?" And I'm like, "No, I stopped." And it just delays the inevitable. It just puts me back even further. So it's best to start now and don't just give up. Like, give it an honest try. I mean, if you have time to make bad art, you have time to learn how to make good art. And that's what I've learned with working with you. If I have the time to just sit here and make the same bullshit that's not getting me anywhere, I have the time to put in the actual work to get better.
and you
So,
could challenge yourself. You could take the exact same silhouette. Let's see, where did I put that shit? Okay, these are the lines, or yeah, these are the lines right. You could take that exact same silhouette and try to do something else with it. Like if you add on this over here, go something like this. Oh, wait, the opacity is down. That never works. 100% opacity is how I roll. Add a big wing. We'll paint with some white. And then look, that becomes like a giant galactic starship. Do 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 do. Do do. Look at that. Oh my fucking god, that's amazing! Right? Like, then you come right over here and then just start practicing how to draw those shapes going back. Here's the front. There's center. This wing here is going to be kind of big. That'll come there. And get the big construction shapes done, and then go find yourself a bunch of references from like, aircraft carriers and shit, and working in kinds of details that help fill that stuff in. So I just turned a guy with a gun into a giant fucking starship, in like 2 seconds. So you got to train your mind. And that's the hardest part, folks. Like, I've had the hardest time, even in art departments, like explaining to artists, like, you're not seeing things a certain way. And it's very difficult. I told Brandon, when we first met and we're talking about art, I was like, if you can't tell the difference between He-Man and Frank Frazetta, if you just think that's like a style difference, I can't help you. Like it goes,
right.
those two things go beyond styles. And I know that seems kind of weird to say that, but I've been in art departments where sales people hand me the illustrations from Wizard, like the fully rendered dragon, breathing flame, and go, yeah, we want you to do a sketch like that. I'm like, that's not a fucking sketch, man. Like, let's take Alex Ross's tonal renderings, of fucking Bruce Wayne with the scars on his back. We want a sketch like that, but with Bruce Lee. I'm like, that's not a sketch, dude. That dude probably spent like 12 hours render. I mean, fucking man, that's a whole rendered thing he took. He got a model, he lit it. You want this shit by lunch, Fucking a sketch is a sketch. So you have to be able to see the difference even before you can draw anything. If you can't see the difference, you don't know where you're going. So without that, my words are virtually useless. They only make sense later when it does click into place, and then you're like, oh shit, that dude told me that. Like, right, Brandon? I mean, how
Yeah.
many times have you come back and been like, hey, remember that thing you told me like 3 years ago?
I hate when you're fucking right. So yes, many times.
Like, I'm just trying. I just figure I am not a really smart person, folks. I'm creative. I don't have a giant IQ, And the experiences I've gone through, I feel are universal, So I try to impart my universal failures, and successes upon to you so that you don't have to go through that shit unless you choose to, One of the things that I've been going through for a while with Brandon is drawing dot to dot. This little practice of dot to dot and then ghosting. Dot to dot and then ghosting. Dot and then a little further, ghost. And the reason why that's important is because when you see me drawing, folks, and I'm just like, drawing the shit out of a drawing with that little ink pen and that builds up line confidence. And line confidence makes a difference between your art looking like a solid piece of art and like ramen noodles in the vague shape of Batman. You ever see someone's inks and they're like they had an Etch-a-Sketch and they were just hoping not to fuck it up? You want line confidence. You want to make certain that when you're looking at a spot on the paper, that your hand will go to it. Do the lines have to be perfectly straight? No, but look, they're going to those dots. I'm just looking, So, so that's what's really important, or fundamentals of basics. When you watch things like MasterChef or Hell's Kitchen, and you see people fucking up on the fancy food, does Gordon Ramsay or any of those cats ever say, "Oh, it's because you don't understand how to cook fancy food"? They'll say, "You don't know how to chop a fucking onion, right?" Right? It's the basics. They go, "Did you learn how to properly clean the mushrooms? Do you know how to actually, fucking make your own pasta? Egg, flour, and the knead, and then, do you know how to do that?" And half the time, like more than half the time, like 90% of the time, it's because they don't know the basics. So it always comes back down to this. Brandon, any questions about silhouettes?
How many more years do I got before I'm good?
Enough for a publisher? Probably a minimum of 5.
Yes.
I say but that's because I'm involved.
I know.
On your own, never. That's what you were looking at. We had that conversation, right?
Yes.
So we keep it real here. Another question I want to bring up really quick. Another fan of ours. Let me bring this one up. Here we go. Comicbook brought up asking me to look at his portfolio, if I can give him some advice. He says he draws avatars and stuff, so he wants me to look at his art. So I pulled up his Instagram, and here's his stuff. So it's pretty basic, entry-level art. My advice would be to really focus on the basics. So I'm going to point you all to this from the Nomont Workshop, Basic Perspective Form Drawing Techniques of Scott Robertson. You get this DVD or video, even if you have to torrent it, if you can't afford it, whatever, I don't care. You get it somehow. I own it. I recommend buying it, but if you can't, I get it. And you practice this every day or every week for about 6 months and then get back to me and show me that stuff. And then we'll talk further. This is very, very important. I do a refresher at least once a year, but I could tell you around 2004 when this came out, I did nothing but, I already knew this stuff, but I didn't know how to articulate it. Even going to AI and art school, I didn't know how to articulate what this guy was talking about. So taking it beyond just boxes, 2-point, 1-point perspective. Like, when you get a book, How to Draw Comics, and it just shows you how to draw a building. Here's a box, here's a box, here's a building, and then there's a million fucking windows, and like there's New York. You're like, where'd that come from? But in this case, it's about learning how to set up a volume, establish center, and then build up from center, based off just the basics. So you need to do this, and don't do it and then be like, I did that, and I should have learned it. Like, it's going to take 6 months, get back to me, another 6 months, get back to me, another 6 months. You're going to need the time. And if in 6 months you show me and I can tell you haven't done it, I'm going to be like, well, you didn't really do it.
Yeah.
And I think that being able to do that will help. Because once you learn how to establish a volume and draw 3-dimensionally, everything you're doing now, you're going to look at it and go, oh. Oh, And I could tell you, how to draw noses or mouths or eyes. But if you can't draw in a volume, then I'm not the guy for you. If you want to learn about how to establish icons and typography, you got to go find another art channel to hang out on, because that's not really what I specialize in. So, what's up, dude? So again, getting back to the magic trick of the silhouettes, go check out the art tips, XMen, drawing XMen silhouettes. and you will get tons of info there. I did a nice video on that. And that's it for tonight, dude. We're going to be back in a little bit with some Battletoads flats. Mike's going to be on the line, hopefully. So we will do that. Brent, anything else?
Nope. I'm good.
All right. Hope to see y'all there. Later, folks. Bong. Bong. Snoochies.